The neon sign of the Rusty Anchor flickered, casting an eerie glow on the rain-slick streets of New Haven. Zane hunched over his whiskey, the amber liquid swirling in the glass like the memories that haunted him. The bar's grimy atmosphere suited his mood, a perfect blend of desperation and anonymity. He knocked back the drink, savoring the burn. It was 2044, but for Zane, time had lost all meaning. The experiments. God, the experiments. His fingers tightened around the glass, threatening to shatter it. A flash of green caught his eye. Zane's head snapped up, his enhanced senses instantly on alert. She sauntered in, an alien, her skin a vibrant emerald that seemed to glow under the dim lights. Her curves were dangerously human, but there was an otherworldly grace to her movements. "Well, hello there, handsome," she purred, sliding onto the stool next to him. Her words slurred slightly, and her eyes were unfocused. "Drugged," Zane realized with a frown. "You shouldn't be here," he growled, turning back to his drink. She giggled, the sound sending an unexpected shiver down his spine. "Oh? And where should I be, Mr. Grumpy Pants?" Zane's lips twitched despite himself. "Somewhere safe. You're in no condition to be out." "Safe is boring," she pouted, leaning in close. Her scent hit him like a physical force, sweet, intoxicating, and utterly alien. "I'm Ivy, by the way. And you are—" "Leaving," Zane muttered, standing abruptly. He needed air, needed to get away from this strange pull he felt towards her. Ivy's hand shot out, grabbing his wrist with surprising strength. "Don't go," she whispered, her eyes suddenly clear and intense. "Please." The moment stretched between them, electric and charged with possibilities. Zane felt something stir within him, a connection he couldn't explain. A meaty hand clamped down on Ivy's shoulder. "There you are, sweetheart," a burly man leered. "Ready for some fun?" Ivy recoiled, fear flashing across her face. Zane's vision went red. In a blur of motion too fast for normal eyes to track, Zane had the man pinned against the wall. "The lady's not interested," he snarled, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. The man's eyes widened in terror. "Hey man, I didn't know she was with—" Zane tightened his grip. "She's not with anyone, but you're going to walk out of here and forget you ever saw her. Understood?" The man nodded frantically. Zane released him, watching as he scrambled out of the bar. Ivy stared at Zane, a mix of awe and something else in her eyes. "My hero," she breathed. Zane ran a hand through his hair, suddenly self-conscious. "Let's get you home." The walk to Ivy's apartment was a blur of stolen glances and charged silences. Zane couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted in his world. "This is me," Ivy said softly, gesturing to a run-down building. She swayed slightly, the drug still affecting her system. Zane steadied her with a hand on her arm. The contact sent a jolt through both of them. "Will you be all right?" Ivy's lips curved into a mischievous smile. "Why don't you come up and make sure?" Every instinct screamed at Zane to say yes, to follow this captivating creature and lose himself in her. But the soldier in him, the part that had endured countless horrors, held him back. "Get some rest, Ivy," he said gently. "You'll feel better in the morning." Disappointment flickered across her face, quickly replaced by understanding. "You're a good man, Zane," she murmured, leaning in to place a soft kiss on his cheek. "I won't forget that." Zane watched her disappear into the building, his enhanced hearing picking up her footsteps until she reached her apartment. Only then did he allow himself to breathe, to process the whirlwind of emotions coursing through him. He walked home in a daze, his mind replaying every moment with Ivy. It wasn't until he reached his sparse apartment that the first flashback hit. Asterisk sterile white walls, the sting of needles, screams, his own, echoing endlessly. Zane gasped, clutching his head as the memories assaulted him. The experiments, the pain, the feeling of his very DNA being rewritten. He stumbled to the bathroom, splashing cold water on his face. In the mirror, his eyes glowed with an inhuman light. Zane gripped the sink, his superhuman strength leaving cracks in the porcelain. "What am I?" he whispered to his reflection. The night passed in a haze of fitful sleep and fragmented memories. Zane's enhanced physiology needed little rest, but his mind was another matter entirely. Images of Ivy intertwined with flashes of lab coats and syringes, creating a surreal tapestry of desire and dread. Morning found him perched on the fire escape, watching the sun rise over New Haven's eclectic skyline. The city was a patchwork of human architecture and alien influences, a tangible reminder of how much the world had changed since first contact. A knock at his door startled Zane from his brooding. He tensed, reaching for the weapon he always kept close. Who could possibly? "Zane? It's Ivy. I hope you don't mind. I kind of followed you home last night." Zane froze, a maelstrom of emotions warring within him. He should send her away. It wasn't safe for either of them. And yet, he opened the door, drinking in the sight of her. In the harsh light of day, Ivy was even more breathtaking. Her green skin had a subtle iridescence, and her eyes, God, her eyes were like twin galaxies. Ivy fidgeted under his gaze. "I wanted to thank you properly," she said, a hint of nervousness in her voice. "For last night, you really saved me." Zane leaned against the doorframe, forcing a casual tone. Anyone would have done the same. Ivy's laugh was musical. "Oh, honey, you clearly haven't spent much time in New Haven, but it wasn't just that. You were kind, even when I threw myself at you." A ghost of a smile tugged at Zane's lips. "Threw yourself at me? I don't recall any throwing." "Well, maybe next time I'll be more obvious," Ivy teased, her eyes sparkling with mischief. The air between them crackled with tension. Zane found himself leaning in, drawn by some primal force he couldn't explain. A siren wailed in the distance, shattering the moment. Zane jerked back, reality crashing down around him. "You should go," he said roughly. Hurt flashed across Ivy's face. "Zane, it's not safe," he cut her off. "Being around me, I'm not what you think I am." Ivy's expression softened. "And what if I'm not what you think I am either?" The question hung between them, laden with unspoken truths. Zane's enhanced senses picked up on the slight increase in Ivy's heart rate, the faint sheen of sweat on her brow. She was nervous, but not just from their interaction. "Who are you really, Ivy?" Zane asked, his voice low and intense. She bit her lip, conflict evident in her eyes. "I'm someone who needs a friend," she finally said. "Someone who understands what it's like to be different." Zane's mind raced. Could she know about his enhancements? About the experiments? Or was she hiding secrets of her own? Before he could decide how to respond, a commotion erupted on the street below. Zane's heightened hearing picked up shouts and the sound of energy weapons powering up. "Found you, you green bitch!" a gravelly voice bellowed. "Time to pay up!" Ivy paled, her emerald skin taking on a sickly hue. "Oh no," she whispered. "They're here." Zane's combat instincts kicked in. He pulled Ivy inside, slamming the door shut. "Who's here?" he demanded. "What kind of trouble are you in?" Ivy's eyes welled with tears. "I'm so sorry, Zane. I never meant to drag you into this. I'm a fugitive, wanted across half the galaxy for stealing something very valuable." Zane's mind whirled. Part of him wanted to throw her out, to wash his hands of this mess. But a deeper part, the part that had been irrevocably changed by the experiments, recognized a kindred spirit in Ivy. "What did you steal?" he asked, already moving to grab the go-bag he always kept packed. Ivy hesitated, then reached into a hidden pocket. She pulled out a small vial filled with a shimmering, opalescent liquid. "This," she said softly, "it's called celestial nectar. One drop can extend a being's life by centuries." Zane stared at the vial, understanding dawning. "And let me guess, some very powerful people want to get their hands on it." Ivy nodded miserably. "I thought I could lose them here on Earth. I'm so sorry, Zane. I'll go. I'll lead them away from—" Zane silenced her with a look. "We're in this together now," he said, surprising himself with the conviction in his voice. "I've got a safe house outside the city. We'll figure this out." Relief and gratitude washed over Ivy's face. She stepped closer, placing a hand on Zane's chest. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know why, but I trust you, Zane. There's something about you." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the chaos outside faded away. Zane felt that inexplicable pull again, now stronger than ever. Without thinking, he leaned in and kissed Ivy. The kiss was electric, sending waves of sensation through both of them. Ivy's skin seemed to glow even brighter, while Zane felt his enhanced abilities surging as if supercharged by her touch. They broke apart, both breathing heavily. What was that?" Ivy whispered, her voice trembling with a mixture of awe and something deeper. But then, as if something primal and uncontrollable ignited within her, Ivy's expression shifted. Her eyes darkened with an intensity that sent a shiver down Zane's spine. I can't," she stammered, but her body betrayed her words as she pressed closer to him. "I want to taste your nectar," she breathed, her voice a sultry whisper filled with desperate need. Zane's heart raced, a surge of desire and instinct overwhelming his thoughts. Ivy's hands roamed over his chest, her touch like fire on his skin, and before he could process what was happening, she was pulling him closer, her lips crashing against his in a fevered kiss. They gave in to the wild passion that overtook them, their movements frantic and raw, as if the danger outside only fueled the intensity between them. Clothes were discarded without thought, their bodies entangled in a dance of desire that neither could resist. The room filled with the sound of their fervent coupling, the tension between them released in an explosive burst of shared ecstasy. Outside, the pursuers crept closer, their voices audible through the thin walls. "Did you hear that?" one of them muttered, pausing near the window. "Sounds like something's going on in there." "Maybe we should check it out," another replied, the hint of suspicion in his tone. But Ivy, lost in the throes of passion, didn't hold back, her moans of pleasure echoing loudly despite the imminent danger. Zane, equally lost in the intensity of the moment, couldn't stop himself from responding with equal fervor. Their bodies moved together in a desperate rhythm, each wave of sensation driving them further from reality and deeper into each other. The searchers outside hesitated, their focus momentarily distracted by the unmistakable sounds of lovemaking from within. "Jesus, what are they doing in there?" one of them said, half in disbelief, half in envy. "Forget it," another grunted. "We have a job to do." But even as the danger loomed just outside, Ivy and Zane were oblivious, consumed by the all-consuming fire between them. The world outside ceased to exist, replaced by the primal connection they shared in that moment. When it was over, they lay together, their bodies still entwined, the air heavy with the scent of sweat and passion. The sounds of their pursuers faded into the background, as if the world itself had been held at bay by the force of their union. Zane stared at the ceiling, his mind reeling from the intensity of what had just happened. Beside him, Ivy's breathing gradually slowed, her hand resting lightly on his chest. She turned her head to look at him, her eyes soft yet still shimmering with the remnants of desire. What was that?" she asked again, but this time with a knowing smile as if she already understood the answer. Zane didn't know how to respond. He felt as though something fundamental within him had shifted, something far beyond the physical connection they'd just shared. He looked into Ivy's eyes and saw a reflection of the same uncertainty, the same questions, and the same inexplicable bond that had drawn them together. But before either of them could speak, the reality of their situation came crashing back. The voices outside grew louder, the searchers moving closer, clearly still intent on finding them. "We need to go," Zane said, his voice low and urgent. Ivy nodded, her eyes still locked on his. "Yes," she whispered, her tone resolute. But as she moved to get up, she leaned in close, her lips brushing against his ear. "But this isn't over, not by a long shot." Zane's heart pounded in his chest, the implications of her words resonating deep within him. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain. Whatever lay ahead, he and Ivy were now bound together by something far more powerful than either of them had anticipated. With a final, lingering look, they gathered their belongings and slipped out of the room, leaving behind the remnants of their old lives and the echoes of a night that would haunt them both for a long time to come. The stolen freighter shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace, revealing the pristine azure orb of Meridius 11. Zane's hands tightened on the controls, a mix of relief and trepidation coursing through him. Home, or the closest thing to it he had left. "It's beautiful," Ivy breathed, her emerald eyes wide with wonder. Zane allowed himself a small smile. "Wait till you see it up close." As they descended through wispy clouds, Ivy gasped. The planet's surface was a tapestry of crystalline forests and shimmering lakes, punctuated by graceful spires that seemed to grow organically from the landscape. "How did you find this place?" Ivy asked, her voice hushed with awe. Zane's jaw tightened. "It was a parting gift from the people who made me what I am." Ivy turned to him, concern etched on her features. "Zane, what exactly happened to you?" He guided the ship towards a concealed landing pad before answering. "I was a soldier, just a grunt, really. Then I was selected for a special program. They told us we'd be the next step in human evolution." The ship touched down with a gentle thud. Zane killed the engines, his enhanced hearing picking up the ambient sounds of Meridius 11, alien birdsong and the whisper of crystal leaves. "What they didn't tell us," he continued, his voice low and dangerous, "was how many of us wouldn't survive the process." Ivy reached out, her fingers brushing his arm. The contact sent a jolt through both of them, far more intense than it should have been. Zane jerked away, his breath coming faster. "I'm sorry," Ivy whispered. "I can't explain it, but being near you, touching you, it's like my whole body is on fire." Zane nodded, struggling to regain his composure. "I feel it too. It's not normal." A wry smile played on Ivy's lips. "Honey, I don't think either of us qualifies as normal at this point." Despite himself, Zane chuckled. "Fair point. Come on, let's get inside. We should be safe here, at least for a while." They exited the ship, Zane leading Ivy towards a structure that seemed to grow seamlessly from the crystalline landscape. As they approached, a hidden door slid open with a soft chime. "Welcome home, Zane," a melodious voice greeted them. "I detect an unregistered guest. Shall I initiate security protocols?" "Stand down, Aurora," Zane commanded. "She's with me." Ivy raised an eyebrow. "An AI? Impressive." "Aurora's more than just an AI," Zane explained as they entered. She's kind of the planet itself, or at least she's integrated into its systems." The interior of Zane's home was a blend of advanced technology and organic forms. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing the status of various planetary systems. "So," Ivy said, sinking onto a couch that seemed to mold itself to her body, "care to explain how you came to own an entire planet?" Zane paced, his enhanced physiology making him restless. "Like I said, it was a gift. After the experiments, He trailed off, lost in painful memories. Ivy leaned forward, her eyes intense. "After you what, Zane?" He met her gaze, his own eyes flickering with an inhuman light. "After I destroyed the facility, killed everyone involved in the project. I thought I was ending it." Ivy's sharp intake of breath was the only sound in the room. Zane waited for fear, for revulsion, but instead he saw understanding. "You were protecting yourself," she said softly, "and others like you." Zane nodded, a weight lifting from his chest. "Anyway, afterwards, I found coordinates for this place. A message saying it was my reward for being the only successful subject." Ivy stood, moving closer to him. The air between them seemed to crackle with energy. "And what exactly did they do to you, Zane? What makes you so special?" Instead of answering, Zane moved in a blur of motion. One moment he was across the room, the next he was directly in front of Ivy, so close she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "Enhanced speed," he murmured. Then, effortlessly, he lifted a massive crystalline sculpture with one hand. "Strength." He set it down gently. "Accelerated healing, improved senses. I'm not human anymore, Ivy. Not entirely." Ivy's breath came faster, her pupils dilating. "Show me," she whispered. Without warning, she lashed out, her nails raking across Zane's cheek. He didn't flinch, didn't even blink. Ivy watched in fascination as the scratches healed almost instantly, leaving unblemished skin. "Incredible," she breathed. Then, to Zane's surprise, she laughed. "And here I thought I was the only freak on this planet." Zane's eyebrows shot up. "What do you mean?" Ivy's smile turned enigmatic. "Let's just say the celestial nectar isn't the only thing that makes me unique." Before Zane could press her for details, alarms blared throughout the complex. Aurora's voice rang out, tinged with urgency. "Warning. Unidentified vessels entering the atmosphere. Hostile intent detected." Zane cursed, springing into action. "How the hell did they find us so quickly?" Ivy's face paled. "The nectar. It must be emitting some kind of energy signature they can track." Holograms sprang to life, showing multiple ships descending towards their location. Zane's mind raced, formulating and discarding plans at superhuman speed. "We need to move," he growled. "There's a series of caves not far from here. We can lose them in the crystal formations." Ivy nodded, her earlier playfulness replaced by grim determination. "Lead the way, soldier boy." They burst out of the complex, Zane effortlessly lifting Ivy into his arms. He took off at a speed that would have made an Olympic sprinter weep, the landscape blurring around them. Behind them, energy weapons lit up the sky. The pursuing ships were getting closer, their targeting systems locking onto the faint energy signature of the nectar. Zane's enhanced hearing picked up the whine of charging weapons. Without breaking stride, he leaped, twisting in midair to shield Ivy with his body. A blast of searing energy struck his back, eliciting a grunt of pain. "Zane!" Ivy cried out in alarm. He gritted his teeth, feeling his accelerated healing already kicking in. "I'm fine. Hold on tight." They plunged into the crystal forest, massive formations rising around them like frozen flames. The pursuers' ship struggled to maneuver in the dense terrain, buying them precious time. Zane skidded to a halt at the mouth of a cave, setting Ivy down gently. "In here," he panted. "The crystals should mask our heat signatures." They delved deeper into the cavern, the sounds of pursuit growing fainter. Bioluminescent fungi cast an eerie glow, illuminating their path. Finally, in a chamber deep within the cave system, they allowed themselves a moment to catch their breath. Zane leaned against a wall, his enhanced body already recovered from the exertion. Ivy, however, was gasping for air. That was incredible," she managed between breaths. "I've never seen anyone move like that." Zane's lips quirked in a half-smile. "Glad you enjoyed the ride." As her breathing steadied, Ivy's expression grew serious. "Zane, I need to tell you something. About me. About why I stole the nectar." He nodded, sensing the weight of her words. "I'm listening." Ivy took a deep breath. "My people, we're dying. A genetic disease is ravaging our population. The nectar, it's not just a life extension drug. For us, it's a cure." Zane's mind reeled. "But why steal it? Why not negotiate, make a deal?" Ivy's laugh was bitter. "The consortium that controls the nectar's production, they don't care about a lesser species like mine. They'd rather see us go extinct than share their precious elixir." Anger flared in Zane's chest. It was the same callous disregard for life he'd seen in the scientists who'd experimented on him. "So you took matters into your own hands," he said softly. Ivy nodded, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "I had to. But now I've put you in danger too. I'm so sorry, Zane." Without thinking, Zane reached out, pulling her into a fierce embrace. The moment their bodies connected, that inexplicable energy surged between them, stronger than ever. Ivy gasped, her skin seeming to glow faintly. Zane felt his own enhanced abilities amplifying, power coursing through his veins. They broke apart, both breathing heavily. What is this?" Zane whispered. Ivy's eyes were wide with wonder and a hint of fear. "I don't know. But Zane, I think whatever they did to you, whatever made you special, it came from my people." The realization hit Zane like a physical blow. "The genes they spliced into me, they're alien. They're you." Ivy nodded slowly. "It would explain the attraction, the energy between us. On a cellular level, we're compatible." The implications were staggering. Zane's mind raced, piecing together fragments of memory from the experiments. "They must have known," he growled. "Known about your people's disease. They were trying to what? Create a hybrid? A cure?" Ivy's face hardened. "Or a weapon. Think about it, Zane. Your abilities combined with the nectar. You'd be practically immortal, unstoppable." The cave fell silent as they both absorbed the weight of this revelation. Finally, Zane spoke, his voice low and determined. "We need answers, and I think I know where to start looking." Ivy raised an eyebrow. "Oh? And where's that?" Zane's smile was grim. "Remember how I said I destroyed the facility where they changed me? Well, I might have kept a few souvenirs. Data crystals, encrypted files. I never managed to crack them, but maybe with your help." Ivy's eyes lit up with hope and determination. "Two heads are better than one. especially when one of those heads belongs to a galactic fugitive with a knack for breaking into secure systems. Zane chuckled despite the gravity of their situation. Quite the resume you've got there. Oh, honey, Ivy purred, a mischievous glint in her eye. You haven't seen anything yet. As if to emphasize her point, Ivy's skin suddenly shifted, taking on a chameleon-like quality that perfectly matched the crystalline walls around them. Zane's jaw dropped. Now that's a neat trick. Ivy winked, her form shimmering back to its normal emerald hue. Like I said, the nectar isn't the only thing that makes me special. Now shall we go crack some top-secret files and unravel a galactic conspiracy? Zane nodded, a spark of excitement igniting within him. For the first time in years, he felt truly alive. With Ivy by his side, he wasn't just running or hiding anymore. He was fighting back. "Let's do it," he said, taking her hand. The now familiar surge of energy passed between them, but this time it felt like a promise, a connection that transcended species and spanned galaxies. As they made their way out of the caves, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, neither Zane nor Ivy realized that their union was about to shake the very foundations of the cosmos. The secrets locked away in those data crystals would lead them down a path of discovery, danger, and destiny, one that would ultimately determine the fate of not just Ivy's people, but of humanity itself. The crystalline spires of Meritus 11 shimmered in the alien sunlight as Zane and Ivy emerged from their underground sanctuary. For weeks, they had pored over the stolen data crystals, unraveling a conspiracy that spanned galaxies and threatened the very fabric of interstellar society. Zane's enhanced senses were on high alert, scanning the horizon for any sign of pursuit. "We should be clear for now," he murmured, his voice tight with tension. Ivy nodded, her emerald skin shifting subtly to blend with their surroundings. "I still can't believe what we uncovered," she whispered. "The consortium, the experiments on your people, the true nature of the celestial nectar." "I know," Zane growled, his fists clenching involuntarily. "We have to stop them. We have to—" His words were cut short by a deafening boom that shook the very ground beneath their feet. The sky above them suddenly darkened, massive ships dropping out of hyperspace and filling the atmosphere. "No," Ivy gasped, her eyes wide with terror. "They found us! How did they—" Zane's mind raced, piecing together the puzzle with superhuman speed. "The data crystals," he snarled. "They must have had a hidden tracker. I led them right to us." Before Ivy could respond, the air was filled with the screech of energy weapons powering up. Beams of destructive light rained down from the invading fleet, shattering the crystal forests and vaporizing entire lakes. "Run!" Zane roared, scooping Ivy into his arms and taking off at impossible speed. The world blurred around them as he zigzagged through the collapsing landscape, narrowly avoiding blasts that would have atomized them instantly. They reached Zane's compound just as a massive explosion rocked the area, sending shards of crystal flying in all directions. Zane shielded Ivy with his body, feeling the impacts against his reinforced skin. "Aurora!" he shouted as they stumbled inside. "Initiate defense protocols! Full lockdown!" The AI's melodious voice was tinged with urgency. "Initiating defenses, Zane, but I'm afraid our options are limited. The invading force far outmatches our capabilities." Holographic displays sprang to life, showing the full scale of the assault. Dozens of capital ships hung in low orbit, disgorging swarms of smaller attack craft. Ground forces were already making planetfall, their weapons trained on Zane's last bastion. Ivy's face was pale, but her jaw was set with determination. "We can't let them get the nectar," she said, pulling the vial from a hidden pocket. If the consortium gets their hands on it. Zane nodded grimly. I know, but we can't destroy it either. Your people need it. For a moment, the chaos outside faded away as their eyes met. In that instant, a lifetime of unspoken feelings passed between them. Zane reached out, cupping Ivy's face in his hand. Whatever happens, he said softly, I want you to know. The moment was shattered by a massive explosion that rocked the entire compound. Alarms blared as Aurora's voice rang out. Perimeter breached! Hostile forces incoming! Zane's expression hardened, his eyes taking on an inhuman glow. Get to the lab, he commanded Ivy. Barricade yourself in. I'll hold them off. Ivy grabbed his arm, her grip surprisingly strong. Zane, no, you can't face them alone. He gave her a crooked smile, the one that always made her heart skip a beat. Alone? Sweetheart, I'm worth an army. Before she could protest further, Zane was gone, moving faster than her eyes could track. The sounds of combat erupted from the entrance, punctuated by inhuman roars and the screams of dying invaders. Ivy raced to the lab, her mind whirling. She had to find a way to help, had to... A sharp pain in her abdomen doubled her over, forcing a gasp from her lips. As the sensation passed, a realization dawned that shook her to her core. Outside, Zane was a whirlwind of destruction. His enhanced strength and speed made him virtually untouchable as he tore through the invading forces. Bones shattered under his blows, energy weapons crumpled like tinfoil in his grasp. But even as he fought, Zane knew it was a losing battle. For every enemy he took down, 3 more took its place. The consortium's resources seemed endless, and they were willing to sacrifice countless lives to secure their prize. A massive explosion rocked the compound, and Zane's enhanced hearing picked up the sound of the lab's reinforced door giving way. His heart seized with terror. "Ivy!" he roared, abandoning the fight and racing back inside. He found her cornered in the lab, surrounded by a squad of heavily armed soldiers. Their leader, a scarred brute of a man, held a wicked-looking energy pistol to Ivy's head. "Stand down, freak," the man snarled, "or watch your little green girlfriend's head vaporize." Zane froze, his mind racing through scenarios at superhuman speed. There had to be a way out, had to be... "Zane," Ivy's voice was surprisingly calm. "There's something you need to know." The squad leader tightened his grip on Ivy. "Shut up, you!" In a blur of motion too fast for normal eyes to track, Ivy's form shimmered. The soldier found himself holding nothing but empty air as she reappeared across the room. "I'm pregnant," Ivy said, her eyes locked on Zane's. "It's yours." The world seemed to stop. In that frozen moment, Zane saw everything with perfect clarity. The sacrifices that had led them here, the miracle growing within Ivy, the future that hung in the balance. He made his decision in less than a heartbeat. Moving faster than he ever had before, Zane scooped up Ivy and raced deeper into the compound. Bullets and energy blasts whizzed past them, missing by millimeters. "Aurora!" Zane shouted. "Initiate Protocol Omega!" The AI's voice was somber. "Confirmed, Zane. It has been an honor." They reached a hidden chamber where a sleek escape pod waited. Zane gently placed Ivy inside, his eyes burning with emotion. "Zane, no," Ivy pleaded, realizing his intent. "Come with me. We can—" He silenced her with a kiss, pouring every ounce of love and longing into that final embrace. As they parted, he pressed the vial of celestial nectar into her hand. "Save your people," he whispered. "Save our child. I'll find you. I promise." Before Ivy could respond, Zane slammed the pod's hatch shut. The last thing he saw was her tear-streaked face as the launch sequence initiated. Zane turned to face the oncoming horde, a grim smile playing on his lips. "All right, you bastards," he growled. "Let's dance." What followed was a battle that would become legend across the galaxy. Zane moved like a force of nature. His enhanced abilities pushed beyond their limits. Bones shattered, metal crumpled, and the very air seemed to ignite around him. But even as he fought, Zane was enacting the final part of his plan. Aurora, linked to the planet's core systems, was initiating a chain reaction that would rip Meridius 11 apart. As the ground began to shake and fissures opened in the crystalline surface, Zane allowed himself one final moment of peace. He thought of Ivy, of the child they had created, a perfect fusion of their two species, a beacon of hope for the future. The consortium forces, realizing too late the trap they had walked into, began a frantic retreat. But Zane wasn't done. With the last of his strength, he launched himself into the sky, tearing through fleeing ships like tissue paper. From her escape pod, now safely in hyperspace, Ivy watched through tear-blurred eyes as Meridius 11 seemed to collapse in on itself. A blinding flash lit up the void of space, and then nothing. Ivy's hand moved to her belly, feeling the first flutters of the life growing within. "He'll come back to us," she whispered fiercely. "He has to." As the pod hurtled through the stars, carrying her towards an uncertain future, Ivy allowed herself to hope. Zane had defied death before. He had transcended the limits of human potential. And now, with the strength of their love and the miracle of their child, perhaps he could perform one final, impossible feat. The story of Zane and Ivy was far from over. Across the galaxy, whispers began to spread. Of a hybrid child with unimaginable potential, of a green-skinned fugitive with the key to eternal life, and of a man who was more than human, who had sacrificed everything to give hope to two dying races. In the depths of space, on hidden worlds and in shadowy corridors of power, the pieces were already being set for the next stage of their cosmic dance. The consortium, shaken but not defeated, would regroup. New allies would emerge from unexpected quarters, and somewhere, in the void between stars, a legend was being born. Ivy's pod streaked across the galaxy, carrying within it the seeds of revolution. And in the silence of space, if one listened closely, they might hear the echo of a promise. "I'll find you. I promise." The end? For now. Well, well, well. You've made it to the end of our cosmic roller coaster, you beautiful, starry-eyed listeners. Give yourselves a pat on the back, or if you're an alien with tentacles, a gentle squeeze of your favorite appendage. Now, I know what you're thinking. Did Zane really go boom with the planet? Is Ivy's baby going to have superpowers and be able to change colors like a mood ring? Will there be a sequel where they all meet up for a space picnic? Whoa there, eager beavers, or eager Zorblaxians if you're tuning in from the Andromeda Galaxy. Those are some excellent questions, and the answers are, well, wouldn't you like to know? Asterisk, wink, wink, asterisk. But here's the deal, my cosmically curious companions. If you enjoyed this tale of love, loss, and luminous green skin, we need your help. That's right. You have the power to ensure more stories like this blast their way across the airwaves. So, if Zane's abs of steel and Ivy's chameleon charm tickled your fancy, why not slam that like button harder than Zane punching through a spaceship hull? And while you're at it, leave us a comment. Tell us your favorite part, your theories on what happens next, or just keys mash in excitement. We promise we'll pretend to understand your alien language. Remember, every like and comment feeds our storytelling engines and keeps the consortium's lawyers off our backs. Plus, who knows? Maybe your brilliant insights will inspire the next chapter in Zane and Ivy's saga. So go on, don't be shy. Show us some love and we'll keep the intergalactic intrigue coming. After all, in space, everyone can hear you scream with delight at a good story. Stay cosmic, my friends.